Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to talk about the things that I like about Taiwan. If you haven't checked it out already, my last video is about the things that I didn't like about Taiwan, and in this video I'm going to kind of redeem myself for the Taiwanese people. So let's get into it and find out the things that I do like. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is kind of bouncing off of my idea from the last video, and it's actually weather. I love the weather in Taiwan when it's not raining, and it's really just Taipei that's the most frustrating for me. Taipei and Geelong are some of the most rainy parts of Taiwan. And to be honest, the south and the central areas are probably just better. I just happen to live in one of the most rainy parts of Taiwan. Another nice thing is that it gets so nice and hot here. I prefer hot weather anyways, and I really hate winters in Ohio, so I'm kind of glad to be here. And speaking about winters, the winters here rarely get below 10 degrees Celsius. It's usually between 12 and 15 degrees Celsius. And I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but that'll be up on screen there. Yeah, overall, besides the rainy season, weather is pretty good here in Taiwan. The next thing I want to talk about is like the history and culture of Taiwan. There's a lot of great museums, modern art museums, there's history museums. There's a lot of historical artifacts that were actually stolen from China when the KMT fled to Taiwan. They brought a lot of things with them, and you can go see those in the National Palace Museum in Taipei. And there's a lot of other museums all around the island that are pretty interesting. The temples here in Taiwan are also really cool. There's temples all over. If you're interested in religious history, things like that, I would definitely go check them out. No need to feel awkward about showing up as a tourist. There's a lot of tourists there anyways. Maybe I'll do a video on temples in the future. Another really interesting thing that is interesting for me as somebody who's from Ohio is that there's a lot of Aboriginal Taiwanese people here. And I say that's interesting for me as someone who's from Ohio because the word Ohio comes from a Native American language, but that Native American culture isn't really well preserved in Ohio. And in Taiwan, there's definitely been some Aboriginal erasure. Is that what you would say? I'm not sure, but there's still now a big movement for preserving Aboriginal culture. You can visit Aboriginal culture sites and visit their tribes and things like that. So I think the Aboriginal culture here in Taiwan is really interesting. This next point is something that I might get a lot of people disagreeing with me on, but again, as someone who's from the United States, I think this is really interesting. And that's actually going to be the rent here in Taiwan. The housing prices are ironically really high, like even compared to the United States, just from my limited research. I've never actually tried to buy a house here, but from what I've seen, they seem to be really high even by US standards. But rent is actually really cheap. I think when I was doing research on like Zillow for apartments in Columbus and apartments in like Newark, the area that I'm from, you could find some starting at like 600 on the really low end for like studio apartments, but most of them are over 1,000 USD a month. And rent prices here are just a lot cheaper. I live in it's not technically a studio apartment because I do share a bathroom with a couple other units like next to me, but I pay 11,000 NTD, and that's less than 400 USD. So I think rent here is really cheap. And that's even more surprising because I live in New Taipei City, which is one of the biggest cities here in Taiwan. So it's just really interesting to me that I can find such low rent in such a densely populated area. All right, so my next one is convenience. Point number 4 is convenience. Convenience stores are everywhere. That's one thing that you think of when you think of the word convenience. There's 7-Eleven, there's Family Mart, there's OK Mart, there's Simple Mart, there's High Life. I think that's all the big ones. They're everywhere. I actually have 3 7-Elevens within like a 3-minute walk from my house. And I also have a Family Mart and a Simple Mart within a 3-minute walk from my house. So getting food, getting drinks, getting daily necessities, anything you really need should be really close if you live in a big city. Another great thing about the convenience here is the public transportation. So they have U-bikes, which are like rentable bikes. I think in the US we have rentable scooters, like Bird Scooter and I think Lime Scooter is the other one. And here in Taiwan, they have bikes that you can rent, and their U-bike stops are everywhere, in front of government buildings, schools, popular places. Some MRT stations have them. Really, U-bike is really easy to use and pretty accessible. Buses here in Taiwan are pretty cheap too. In Taipei, they're cheap. I think in Taichung they're actually free, or they used to be. I'm not sure if they still are. And the bus system here is okay. They're not as reliable as the MRT, which is even more convenient. Here in Taipei, we have the MRT, which is like the metro system here. The metro system is not as packed as a lot of other cities here in East Asia. I've seen a lot of videos about Japan's subway system and Korea's subway system. It seems like Taiwan's got it pretty easy here. Taipei's pretty convenient. I think Taichung now has one like metro station line. I think Kaohsiung also has a few different lines on their MRT system. And on top of the bus, MRT, U-bike, we also have trains, and we have the high-speed rail. I don't ride the high-speed rail very often because it's a little bit expensive, but if you need a quick way to get to a different city, you have that option. The trains are also really convenient. If you need to go to a city on the East Coast, you can ride the trains, and yeah, they're pretty inexpensive too. Another thing to add to the convenience is Uber Eats and Food Panda. They're like the same thing basically, and they make it really easy for you to order delivery food. I know we have that in the US too, but as someone who's from a more rural area where I can't really use Uber Eats, it's been great having that convenience here. We also have a thing called Shopee, which is kind of like Amazon. You can just order things, and not only can you get them delivered to your house, you can also get them delivered to a convenience store, and you can go there for pickup. So you don't have to worry about not being at home when something is delivered. You can just have it sent to a convenience store and then walk over there. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I think this is what most foreigners talk about when they come to Taiwan, is the food. East Asian food is great in general. I love Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and Taiwanese food. It's all great. And the nice thing about Taiwan is it's in a really geographically unique area where it's between East Asia and Southeast Asia. This is not only unique geographically, but also unique historically because it used to be a part of Japan. It used to be a Japanese colony, and it's now full of Chinese culture. So you get this Chinese and Japanese mix. You have the things that are original to Taiwan. You get immigrants from Southeast Asia bringing, Vietnamese and Thai food. There's also great access to Korean food here. Because it's an international trade hub, you get a lot of Western countries coming over here too. There's great American food. I found great American restaurants around Taipei 101, and it's just a great place to get any kind of food that you want. Because it's closer to the equator, you can also get access to a lot of tropical fruits or foods that are maybe harder to get a hold of in the United States. Even if you can find them in the US, they're often fresher here because a lot of the fruit is just grown here locally. Yeah, so those are some things that I really enjoy about living in Taiwan. I'm sure I'll post more videos about things I enjoy in Taiwan in the future, so if you are up for that, please subscribe and like the video. I am heading to Korea next week, so hopefully videos will be coming out next week or the week after about my trip in Korea. I've got some exciting things planned, and I can't wait to share them with all of you. So please subscribe, and I'll see you in those future videos.